Welcome everybody to Fergo and The Freak. I'm your host, the glorious League Freak, and today we have a very special guest. We have current Fox Sports journalist and former cheerleader Darcie McDonald. Hey, hey Darcie, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you? Thank you for having me as well.
Yeah, it's cool to finally get to talk to you. We've chatted a little bit before on DMs, and yeah, it was finally time to get you on and have a talk about cheerleading.
Yeah, it's very topical at the moment, isn't it?
It really is. Now, before we get into that, I've got to thank our sponsor. It is manscaped.com. If you go to manscaped.com and you put in the code word NRL at checkout, you get 20% off and free shipping and a 30-day money-back guarantee on every single item on their website. Go and get the perfect package 3.0. It is brilliant. It has everything you need. We thank Manscaped. Go and do it. We do this for you lot, so go and purchase something. So, the Parramatta Eels, they decided to not have cheerleaders this year, and it was really disappointing for everyone. You're a former cheerleader. What would that be like to go into the season, and we're pretty close to the season kicking off, and all of a sudden, the cheerleading positions are gone?
Well, it actually happened at the Bulldogs for a hot minute when Raylene Castle was the CEO, and
Hmm.
I remember at the end of 2013, she announced that the cheerleaders were going to be no longer, and instead there was going to be an ambassador's role, and that kind of came out into the media and whatnot, and weren't entirely briefed on
Hmm.
what that meant. So for a stage there, I experienced that, and I thought, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? Like this is my dream. I'm living my dream. I love what I do.
Hmm.
Like how else do I get involved in the game? So I can empathize hugely with the Parramatta girls with what they're going through at the moment, because they would be really lost, especially how, like you mentioned, how close to the season it is.
Hmm.
Um, some girls, they do it for the purpose of performing rather than they might not be staunch fans. So they could have potentially gone to another squad, but the thing is, it's so close to the season, they've probably missed majority of the other squad's auditions.
Hmm.
So they could find themselves, without cheerleading for this year, which is really sad, because essentially they might even just hang up the pom poms completely and give up and not come back, which would be a real shame, I reckon.
Yeah, because I guess with cheerleading, it's almost like a footy career in the sense of there's almost a time limit on it to a certain extent. For most cheerleaders, it seems like they don't have a very long cheerleading career at all.
Yeah, you're exactly right, because you have to be 18 to join a cheerleading squad. So you have from 18 until, I guess, as old as you can possibly keep up with all the routines and everything like that. But also a lot of females will give up cheerleading because they're pregnant, and they are going to give birth, and then all of a sudden they've got a child to look after. They're not going to come back and spend Friday nights or Saturday nights or whatnot um, on the sidelines, because they've got other responsibilities. So yeah, there is a time limit. Most cheer girls will probably do maybe 3 to 7 seasons is kind of the average,
Hmm.
and probably anything above 5 I would consider is a really good stint. But I don't know, the poor Parramatta girls, they'll be, I don't even know what they're going to do, because they're going to be lost now. So many of them, they're so passionate about it.
Hmm.
And it's essentially losing a big part of your life from March all the way through to October if your team's in the finals. So yeah, it's sad.
And like a real love for it too. I think that it's weird some of the attitudes about cheerleading, and when we have seen the cheer squads being broken up by certain clubs, we've seen almost an attitude of, from some people anyway, that we have to protect the cheerleaders from being sexualized and all of that sort of thing. And no one ever talks to the cheerleaders. No one ever asks them what they think. And I always find it weird that people are putting their own sort of hang-ups on the cheerleaders, and but to fix it up in their minds, they're like, let's take the cheerleaders' happiness away from them. I I always find that really weird.
You and me both. I was literally talking about this exact thing in the office today, that a lot of people, and they might not even have malicious intent, they might actually think that they're doing the right thing by empowering women and protecting them, like you said, and stepping up for women's rights and whatnot, and thinking that they're doing the right thing by saying, you girls we don't have to exploit you anymore. We're going to take you from the field. But they don't realize no cheerleader is being forced to do it. It's not slavery. It's not anything like that. Every girl puts their hand up and goes through the audition process. They commit to it, and I can tell you right now, you don't get paid very well. So they do it for the love of it. And so, yeah, like no one's forced to do it. And they're happy to wear the costumes. At any stage, if you're ever uncomfortable, you're not bound to that club that you have to push through. You can always step down, leave, do something else. It's mind-boggling. A lot of people, like you said, like to speak on behalf of the cheerleaders, and they might think that they're doing the right thing, and they might have their moral compass and think that they're right, and they're doing us a favor. But at the end of the day, they're essentially not listening to the people that they think they're standing up for, and that's a little bit twisted and backwards for me.
Yeah, and the other thing is too, and as you say, it probably comes from a good place for the people that do it. It really, and it does, like it just does. But the idea that there are now, like, just you think of the Parramatta cheerleaders, all of those women that now are no longer employed by the game, even if they don't earn too much. I mean, they were there, they were very visible, especially at Parramatta cheerleaders. They were very visible on game day and outside of game day too. And that they're not involved in the game, it's like that should be the complete opposite of what we're doing in rugby league, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, how much do we see people in the game advocating for more women involved in the game, whether that be from the grassroots all the way up in admin, as players, everything like that. So it just, I don't know, in one breath to be supporting women in the game and trying to invite females and make it more family friendly and whatnot, and then in the same breath, ending the employment of a bunch of young women who really put their heart and soul into what they're doing. They don't get paid well. They do it for the love of it, and they're great ambassadors for the club. It sucks. And what comes out of cheerleading as well is things go beyond that. So for me personally, when I finished up at the Bulldogs cheerleading, I moved into a media internship in the club, and that was basically my first working experience post university in the media. So, and putting that on my resume gave me a bit of experience for when I started applying for jobs in journalism. So things like that. And I know there's a Panthers cheerleader, and she's a lawyer, and she got her first law internship via one of the Penrith sponsors. So there's all these opportunities beyond what you see on the field, and like it makes me sad that any young and up and coming dancer that maybe supported the Eels or looked at them and thought that's a squad I want to be a part of, not only will they not be able to experience the sisterhood and the fun and all the amazing experiences that you get as a cheerleader, but they are potentially missing out on further opportunities in the game, whether that be in journalism, in the media, in admin, or working at the club in ticketing or something like that. Who knows what they're going to miss out on now.
Yeah, and like, I mean, as you know, just getting your foot in the door in any way in rugby league, there's that connection there all of a sudden where you can say, well, look, I am in the game, I'm doing this job, and it does open doors for you down, like just with different people that at first you don't even know, that you're going to end up speaking to. It's really interesting, that part of it. So tell me, because I wanted to have you on to talk about some of the misconceptions about cheerleading and just basically talk about how you got into it. When did you first know you wanted to be a cheerleader?
I would have been maybe 5 years old.
Oh.
So, yeah, my family are staunch, massive Bulldogs fans. My pop was one of the very first members at Belmore. So I grew up going to the games from the moment I was born, basically. My mum has this memory of me as a newborn and the ladies that sat next to her I think it was at Belmore, they needed me mittens. So, I didn't have a choice. I was going to the Bulldogs game whether I liked it or not. But as I got a little bit older, still a kid, so, looking at 5 to 10 years old, where I was a real girly girl. I did ballet. And I didn't really understand football. Like the way that my mum was able to get me to the game and not have to find a babysitter for me was the cheerleaders, because that appealed to me as a young girl,
Yeah.
and as a dancer. So I watched them growing up. I still remember what my favorite cheer girl looks like. I should actually track her down somehow and try and meet her. But yeah, I grew up idolizing them. And I remember in my I've got a photo of it actually in my year 6 end of year graduation book. It says, "What's your ambition? What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I said, "A Bulldogs cheerleader."
Oh,
So yeah, so I knew for a long time. So I remember, like I said before, you have to be 18 to be able to audition. And I just remember they put an advertisement up on the Bulldogs website, and I've been waiting my entire life for this advertisement. And the audition clashed with when I was meant to be on Schoolies in Fiji.
mhm.
And so I told my mum, I was like, no, just cancel Schoolies or I'll go late. Like, I don't even care. I don't want to go. I want to audition. And I was lucky. I'd reached out to the club and they said, we'll give you a private audition separately. Like, just
Oh,
go to
wow.
Schoolies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was lucky. So I was able to do both. But I went to the private audition, which was essentially just the current squad were doing a rehearsal, and I just turned up to there, did that, and then we had to do. I don't know if many clubs do this anymore, but we had to do a quiz, like a knowledge quiz.
Of the club.
Yeah, of the club. And I'm just going to chuck in a little humble brag here. I was the
Okay.
only cheerleader to ever get 100%
Oh,
on the Bulldogs one.
no.
Yeah, and then you had a little interview. So that's essentially how I got into it. I knew from when I was a really, really young age that that's exactly what I wanted to do. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, so that's a real big misconception. A lot of people like to stereotype cheerleaders, and like, mind you, there are some girls that do it as an opportunity to boost their dance experience and to perform and whatnot, because the performing arts industry in Australia isn't great.
Mhm.
So cheerleading is a great avenue to get regular exposure and regular work and build yourself up as a dancer, if that's the avenue that you want to go down as a professional dancer. So a lot of the cheerleading gets a lot of fantastic dancers that are just looking for an opportunity. But there are people like me who grew up as rusted on fans,
Mm.
and it was like my way to get involved in the game. I mean, I wish I was tough enough to play, but I'm a sook. Like, I kick my toe and I cry, and and I don't have any desire to work in admin at this stage. And
Yeah.
I didn't know at 18 years old that I was going to work as a journalist
Mhm.
either. So that was why I went after it, because I was a fan. I just wanted to be involved, and that was my way in.
That's awesome. So, I would love to know, with the audition that you did, and obviously yours was
Mm,
a more private
mm.
audition. Um, what routines did they put you
Yeah.
through? How long did it go for? And was it difficult?
Yeah, so the thing is with cheerleading, you have to re-audition every year. So there's no guarantee that you don't just keep your spot,
Mhm.
essentially. So, all for the following 4 seasons, I still had to re-audition. So the auditions basically look like it's like your typical dance audition. So you've got a ton of girls there. You've got a judging panel, and you turn up with your stage makeup and hair. So basically, what you would look like on game day,
Mhm.
just to give the judging panel an insight into how you present yourself, and like, that's part of the gig, and that's always part of any dance performance industry. The whole thing, you have the look is important, because you're performing, so you need to look a certain way. You're not going to turn up messy. So you have to turn up like that. You get numbers either pinned to you, written on your arm or something. So, they don't have to, the judging panel don't have to learn all your names. They'll just refer to you as your number.
Mhm.
And you'll usually you'll do a warm up. So it's kind of like a dance class. So you'll do a warm up, and then you'll do kind of progressions, which is, high kicks from the corner. You might do some leaps, some turns, kind of those basic staple moves that will be in routines. And then you will learn a routine. The choreographer will teach you a routine, and you'll perform it in groups. And then usually the judging panel will narrow it down, and they might cut some people there on that night, or they might get in touch with you a couple of days later and will either decide the squad based off that one audition, or they might hold a second audition where they've cut it down a little bit and then they narrow it down again to the main squad. So it can be a process, but if you've grown up dancing, it's not daunting at all, because it's basically just like a dance class. So if you've danced anyone, you'd be fine. Yeah, but it's fun, and if you're really, really determined to be a cheerleader, it can be a little bit nerve-wracking, because you're essentially walking into a big room of girls all competing for the same spot. So that can be a little bit daunting.
I can imagine. So I guess during these auditions, like, they want to see that you can technically do the basic moves, but then when they move on to giving you routines to do, they're also looking at who picks it up really quickly compared to who needs a little bit more time. And I mean, if you're picking it up quickly, I'm guessing that it's a really good advantage for you.
Yeah, absolutely, because you only get most cheer squads only have one rehearsal each week.
Mm-hmm.
So you've only got a couple of hours altogether to learn a new routine to perform that round. And so, cheerleading's not a full-time thing. So everybody's got other things to worry about, work, other commitments, studying and whatnot. So you've only got a couple of hours at rehearsal to learn the routine, and then it's up to you to be able to practice it and make sure you've nailed it.
Mm-hmm.
And then on game day, I know at the Bulldogs, we'd have to be out on the gates welcoming people into the stadium from the moment the gates open, which is about 2 hours before the game. And you think if it's a Friday night and people and girls are working until like 5 o'clock or whatnot, they'll have to get off work early, arrive to the game, but we have to be on the gates at whatever time, 5:30, 6 o'clock and whatnot. But you have to squeeze in a rehearsal. So you only get maybe 10 minutes to quickly do just a quick run through of the routine to make sure everybody still remembers it. So if you can't pick up the routine on the night at the rehearsal, then it's probably a clear indication that you're going to struggle in the middle of the season, where you've got to pick up a new routine every single week. Plus you do little try celebrations on the sidelines, so they're little mini routines as well. So yeah,
Are they
you've got to
practiced?
be able to pick them up.
Or are
they are. So,
wow, that's incredible.
I'll give you a little insight into those. So they are little, basically they're like little blocks of, we talk in dance language, we might talk, you count in eights. So they're usually 4 counts of eights, which is essentially like 32 seconds ish. And when we were at the Bulldogs, we used to have like a little tiny weeny little list on a piece of paper, and we would chuck it. There'd be one person on each side, like basically leading each side, and we'd chuck it in our shoe, and we'd look down the line and say, okay, if we score next, we're doing, and we'd have little names for them. I think there was one try celebration when I was captain. I named one of them Windmill, for example, because the first move looked like a windmill. Yeah. So we'd have on the pieces of paper, okay, we're going Windmill first, the next one's next. And so I'd look down the line and say, okay, if we score next, we're going to get up and do Windmill. And we've practiced them, previously, but on the night, things go wrong, things happen, you get up because you think it's a try and then it gets awarded a no try. So you have to sit back down, or you think it's a no try and then all of a sudden they put the music on, it's a try, and you got to get up, and you just, it can be a bit frantic, but they are rehearsed. Yes.
Wow. That's blown my mind. I thought it was, I thought it would be something along the lines of you have a block of moves, because obviously they're moves that are being done. Yeah. But I thought it was like you just do this block of moves, but it's planned. I can't believe it.
Yeah. Yeah, they're little mini dances, they're planned. And then a lot of the time too, as you kind of nail those little try celebrations, so at the start of every season, we would learn, 5 or 6 things like try celebration dances. And then by the end of the season, they're like a second language to you. They're so easy. Yeah. And sometimes at the Bulldogs we'd have 2 dances during the game. So besides your try celebrations, we would do a pre-match routine and a halftime routine. So you've only got 2 hours at rehearsals to learn 2 whole new routines. So the little trick is that those little try celebrations that you will do on the sideline will just make a 3-minute routine out of them.
Okay.
and a fan would, unless you're a dancer and you know that that's happening, you wouldn't pick up on that the same moves are being done, just to different music and in a different formation. You would have
Yeah.
no idea.
So you could have a halftime routine where you would get a list of those smaller blocks. So they might say, and I'll make up, I'll use plain names. They might say, like, we're doing I was going to say Craig Gow first. That's a really bad. We're doing the Tony Puletua first, and then we're going to do the Ryan Girdler, and then we're going to go into, the Preston Campbell.
Well, the halftime and the pre-game routines that you see in the middle of the field, that's all pre-choreographed. That's not like, that's all, that's put together like a proper dance. It's the ones where you're seeing the girls sitting on the sidelines throughout the game, and when they score and the girls jump up and then the music comes on and they do like a 30-second dance.
Yeah.
There you try a celebration. So that's when the girls are sitting along the sideline, you might see one girl, if you're looking really closely, you might see a girl pull out a little piece of paper or something and look down the line and say, okay, well, we're doing the Cameron Smith next. And everyone would be like, okay, yep. And we would have rehearsed at training throughout the week. So we might know, okay, we do the Cameron Smith in like a V shape, or we do the Cooper Cronk in like a semicircle shape. You know what I mean? On the sideline. So they are rehearsed. But it's more so you just might not know you might not remember what the order is, or you might change up the order. Or if your team doesn't even score, you might not do any on the sideline. Or if your team scores 60, you're going through them that many times.
Whenever they put on a big score like that, like, did you feel it the next day?
Oh, well, I was pretty lucky. Like, for a couple of years of my cheerleading days, I was doing full-time ballet, so I was really fit. And then in my last years, I was dance teaching, so I was all right. But I know some of the girls that might have an office job or whatever, they would get sore hammies, or they'd have to warm up beforehand, especially if it's in the middle of July or something. It's really cold. I'll never forget, there was this one game. It was like a Monday, back when Monday night games were a thing, and it was Bulldogs and Sharks at ANZ Stadium, and it was empty, like absolutely empty, naturally on a Monday. And I kid you not, it got down to 4 degrees, because on the big screen it will tell you what the temperature is.
Yeah.
And it was just a dull night, and we had our jackets on, but we used to have to take our jackets off and do the little try celebration if they scored. And so that would be like, it's fine if they're scoring all the time because you're getting up and down and you keep warm. But if it's 30 minutes between a try, you get cold. And I remember the Bulldogs were leading by like 8, and I just remember sitting there with my pom-poms kind of pulled into my chest, so cold, thinking, I don't even care if we don't score again. Like, I don't even care if we lose. Like, I just don't want to get back up and dance.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
So I guess that also leads into, like, how many times did you do the cheerleading and it just was pouring rain?
So many times. I remember my first game when I took over as captain and choreographer. So it was my first time putting a dance together. So I was really excited. And it was pouring rain at halftime when we were meant to go out and do our routine. And the game day people at the stadium were like, look, you don't have to do it. Like, we can can it. And those poor girls, I was like, no, we're doing it. Like, I've been waiting all year for this. We're doing it. And it was actually so much fun.
Yeah.
I mean, we looked like drowned rats in the second half, but it was so much fun dancing in the rain, because there was lights, and it was, you're flicking your hair around, and you might stomp in a puddle. So yeah, it is fun. It's happened, but most of the time they won't make you sit out on the sideline if it's raining. I remember there was another game where I was on the opposite side to the tunnel at ANZ, and it started pouring, so we just ran into like this other little tiny tunnel, but we needed to get back around to the main tunnel, because you'll notice at halftime and at the end of games, there's like a guard of honor of cheerleaders usually. So we needed to get back around. I think we had 3 minutes to get all the way back around, so we hitched a ride with one of the little golf buggies that was underneath the stadium. And he drove us all the way back around. So, you kind of get a chance to be a bit naughty and muck around when it's raining.
Yeah, wow. So, okay, so another question I've got for you.
Yeah.
How many times were you on the sideline and maybe, I know sometimes you sit there and watch the game, or you would interact with fans, or
Yeah.
maybe getting ready for a try, and the winger comes sliding across the sideline at you. Like, how often did that happen?
You know what? I don't think it happened. I don't think it happened to me once because we're not exactly near the try line. Like, we're on the sideline, but we're a bit closer to halfway.
Mm-hmm.
So there occasionally a ball will come flying when a player's kicking for touch, and you kind of just have to, put your pom-poms over your head and hope for the best. But the funnier bits are when a player's kicking from the sideline, because we're right. Because when they score and you get up and you do your little try celebration for the try, you also have to stay standing because you also do another little try celebration dance if they convert.
All right.
So you stay standing rather than sitting back down and then getting back up. And we kind of just stand in a line just along the sideline. But if they've got to convert from the sideline, you're literally you're standing right next to, like, for example, I've stood right next to Cameron Smith as he's setting up to kick a conversion. And as a staunch Bulldogs fan, I can tell you I've been very tempted to put him off. But yeah, that's probably the closest you really get. I don't think I've been near a player being taken out, or I don't know what I would do.
I have only seen a couple of times where the cheerleaders have I think there was a Cowboys game where there was a fight that fell over into the cheerleaders, which was no good, but that was a long time ago now. Now, did you ever suffer any sort of injuries or anything like that while you were cheerleading?
I don't think I did. I was pretty lucky. I know there was an Eels girl last year that actually did her ACL, I'm pretty sure, or dislocated her knee. But I don't think so. I was pretty lucky. I mean, there was one when I started the Bulldogs, we had these really like knee-high leather boots that had heels on them. So there was a few rolled ankles as you got used to dancing in them. But other than that, I don't think I came out of it unscathed.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, thank God.
Geez, I'm just thinking, if you're wearing knee-high boots with heels and you're going from the concrete onto the field, and then you're trying to get just nightmare. How did you do that? That's great.
The funny thing is, and people would always comment about the boots, but because they were so heavy, and when you were doing a high kick, once your leg got over 90 degrees, it actually got like flung even higher because the weight took it up. So it made your high kicks go higher.
Yeah.
It was more so like if you had to do a jump. And I remember my first coach at the Bulldogs, she was an older lady, a bit more old school, and she'd be like, "Get your legs up, jump higher." And you'd be like, "I've got like 3 kilos on each leg."
Oh, man. Did you ever see any of the cheerleader? And I know you was all professional and you were all like at a real high level, but how often did those boots just fling someone back too far? Like,
I don't know if anyone. Oh, I've slipped over before. But I don't. It was kind of at the end of the dance, and I just kind of landed in the splits and made it look like it was meant to happen.
Okay.
But that's just the thing with dancers, where like if you're performing, you're just told the show must go on.
Yeah.
So you just kind of. I don't know. You just kind of go through it. Like there was one time, would have been one of my last games. It was a finals game, and the music was a different soundtrack to what we had, like a different version of the song to what we had been rehearsing and what we'd learnt our dance to. So it was like an Uptown Funk remix, but it was like way slower than what we had been essentially given from the NRL to rehearse to. And so we were like, oh my God, what are we going to do? Like this music, and the music started, and we have to dance. We're in the middle of the field. So we were all singing the song because you couldn't quite hear the music either because it was packed stadium. It was a preliminary final, something like that, semi-final. It was a packed stadium. You couldn't quite hear it. You had the players next to us that were warming up. So we had a ball kicked into the middle of the routine, and another player running in, trying to get their ball and stuff. And they're trying to prepare for the biggest game of their season so far. Yeah. And we're singing Up town, funk you up, like just to like to like get on the same beat. So there's moments like that happen. You just have to keep going. You can't freeze and stand in the middle of the field, because what would that look like on the big screen?
Yeah. So did you ever have a day or a moment when you were all cheerleading where it was just a disaster? Like you went back into the dressing sheds afterwards and were like, what happened then?
Yeah, I reckon that one I was just talking about was probably the worst, because because it was a finals game, so there was both squads, where usually throughout the season it's just the home team's cheer squad that's there, but there was both teams, and I'm pretty sure it was the Dragons, and so it kind of felt like this unannounced dance off to us girls, and we had this, we want to be the best and whatnot, and so and they were next to us, and so we were kind of put on this spot because we'd rehearsed all week with this soundtrack that the NRL had given us, but somehow the DJ had played the wrong one. And I remember looking up, and the big screen is a little bit delayed. And I just remember looking up at the big screen, and I could see myself, and I was the captain at the time, so I'm standing at the front, and the girls are waiting for my calls, because you'll kind of yell through the dance. You'll count 5, 6, 7, 8, or you'll go, okay, we're going into the windmill section and stuff like that. And they're looking at me because they're going, that's not our music. And you're just like, we're going to have to just go through it. Let's just sing through it. And we came off, and I remember one of the Bulldogs ladies was like, oh, that wasn't your best. Yeah. And I was like, oh, you don't even know. Yeah, that was a bit of a shit show.
Yeah. Okay, now we're going to talk about it, the absolute hatred between team cheerleaders, the bloodlust, the killer instinct you all have. What's it really like? Like, do you get on, or is there a better competitiveness, or what?
There has never been any competitiveness, as far as I know. The furthest there probably was at finals matches, where the emotions are a bit higher, because your season's on the line, and because I'm such a staunch fan too, I probably take it way too personally. But other than that, there's like a lot of we're I suppose a minority in the game, so and no one understands what it's like to do cheerleading unless you are a cheerleader. So there's a special bond in that sense. I don't think we've ever had any run-ins. I remember one year I was at Allianz, another finals, and it was Manly and Bulldogs, and the Bulldogs had won, and I bumped into this girl, a Manly cheerleader, as I was leaving the field, and I gave her a hug and commiseration. So I don't think there's, it'd be a cool story if there was some sort of beef, but there wasn't. Unfortunately, it wasn't. Everyone was just lovely.
Damn.
I know. I wish I had some sort of, some crazy story to tell you where pom-poms were thrown and high kicks were towards faces, but nothing.
I wanted to hear, what, I'll be honest, I wanted to hear like a good scrag fight in the dressing shed.
No. Like maybe like within squads, there's probably a bit more tension within squads, because you spend so much time together, and you might be hungry, or you're cold, or you're just not in the mood. But like you don't really cross paths with other squads. There might be a bit of like silent competitiveness on Instagram and whatnot, but back when I started, Instagram wasn't really a thing, so we didn't really have that.
Now, are there certain cheer squads in the NRL that are a higher quality than other cheer squads, or is that a misconception? Because I've kind of heard that the Sharks, Parramatta is another one, Manly is another one, where that they are sort of like at a different level with their cheer squads, or maybe give them a higher priority is a better explanation. Is that the case, or is everyone pretty much about as good as each other?
I mean, to a non-dancing eye, you'd probably think everyone's the same, but from my dancing experience, I would definitely say the Sharks are the top level, because like for so many reasons, their choreographer, the Shire has a really good pathway for dance. There's a lot of good dancers in the Shire.
Mm-hmm.
And in the Shire, your only team's the Sharks. So a lot of these dancers, they look at as like a thing that they're going to achieve when they leave high school. We're gonna become a Sharks cheerleader. I say that I'm from the Shire, but I went to the Bulldogs anyways. And also, yeah, their choreographer is quite experienced, and their choreography is probably the hardest in the NRL. And also it goes hand in hand with the club, like you said, making them a higher priority and actually investing in them and giving them their profiles and giving them a platform, which is what helps them be so good. And the same choreographer as the Sharks, she's also doing the Dragons, and they're definitely on the up as well. So yeah, there's definitely different levels, I would say, and it would come down to who the coach choreographer is and what type of platform and how much time a club is willing to put into them.
Now, you talked earlier about how much you can earn as a cheerleader. I won't ask you for specific amounts or anything like that, but like with the Parramatta cheerleaders having been disbanded just before the season started, and this is a question actually Andrew asked me to ask you last night. Would it be enough money that it would affect the young ladies who now don't have that income, or is it more of just a nice bit of money that is extra to the whole experience?
Yeah, well, I've always been pretty open. Like, give or take, girls are only earning about $100 a game. Okay. So you only do 10 home games. So if you do every home game, the maximum you're earning for the entire year is $1,000. Mm-hmm. So in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really make a dent financially.
Yeah.
But mind you, when I first started and I was doing my full-time dance course, I was having to pay that off, and you get paid monthly like the players do, and so you'll get like a nice $400 chunk or whatnot, and so it'd be helpful in a way for the really young girls. Mm-hmm. But I think more so what's happened to the Parramatta girls, rather than the financial impact, I think it's going to be more so the opportunity impact. Like I said before, like you don't know where cheerleading is going to lead you, whether it be a job in the media, a job at the club, or a job through a sponsor. Or it's that opportunity that's now been taken away from them, where it's kind of like a what if moment, what could have come of it, more than a financial impact, because you do it for the love of it. Like you might get around $100 for the game, but you've got to go and get a spray tan. You might need to top up your makeup. You spend money on petrol getting to and from rehearsals and getting to a game. And you're at a game way longer than any of the players. So, it works out to be probably less than $10 an hour.
Yeah. And that's like, I know I was doing some of the calling for the New South Wales Cup year before last, and was really looking forward to last year. And of course it didn't end up happening because of COVID. And so I can understand like this idea of like you gear up for something and then it's just not there.
Yeah.
I just felt so sorry for them. And like, I know that you and me, we both follow some of the same Parramatta cheerleaders on Twitter, and you see how much they love it, and see it taken away. I was really, really sad for them. It was just rotten.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking because it's their thing, and like I said, you don't make money off it. So you have to love it to be able to push through the cold nights, giving up your Saturday nights and turning up to rehearsals and stuff. Like, you have to really love it. And especially for like the girls that we follow on Twitter, they're NRL fans, and that's their way of being involved in the game. So it's almost like this little piece of losing your identity. Like, I struggled when I had to finish cheerleading. Like, it was massive for me because some of my best friends were in that cheerleading squad, and that was my most proud thing from 18 to about, I think I finished like 22, 23. That was the thing I was most proud of more than anything. And that was something that whenever I'd bump into people from school, because they always knew that I wanted to be a Bulldogs cheerleader, they'd always ask me like, how's cheerleading? That was the first thing that people would ask me about, because like it was a part of my identity. And when I had to stop, I really struggled for the first season without it. Like, that first maybe 3 months, I felt isolated from my friends that were still cheerleading. I felt like I was missing out. I felt just like I wanted to be out there, and I didn't really know how to cope, especially because I didn't really get a choice to step down. I had to,
Hmm.
and that's basically the position that they're in. They didn't wrap it up because they were moving on to the next part of their lives, or they wanted to do something else, so they were over it. It's taken away from them. So I think it'll be really hard for them the opening half of the season. I think, yeah, it might sound a bit dramatic, but it's, a little bit of piece of their identity that's been taken away.
No, I get it. I get it. And so when you finished up cheerleading, did you have some part of your previous dance experience that you had carried on, or was just that it for you in terms of your, I guess, performance career?
No, I was quite lucky. So while I was cheerleading, I did a lot of dancing gigs throughout Sydney. So like I had a contract with the Ivy that I juggled, and I did a lot of different, like would be hired for different corporate events and stuff. So I was lucky that I still got my dance fix.
Hmm.
And I picked up, I went back and did some old dance lessons. So I was still able to move. So I guess that would have helped me a little bit. It still made sure I got that little bit of fix of performing. So I hope that these girls can maybe band together and even get together on a couple of nights a month and do a dance lesson all together or something like that, because that'll probably help them get through. But yeah, for some it could be the end of their performing.
Yeah, it's very sad, and I'm with you. I hope that they've got things that they can fill in that time and have that new focus with. Now, moving on to the Bulldogs this year, I might as well ask you because you're a Bull.
Yeah.
What do you? It's been a real tough few years, and like I mean, when you're celebrating missing the wooden spoon, it's like, man, jeez, you know. But this year, it seems like they're starting to put together some pretty good players that, if not, I don't know that they're going to make the finals this year, but it seems like a pretty good base to build upon.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. Like I'm not expecting them to make finals this year. I am next year. But I'm expecting a dramatic improvement. And I think that's the thing with Bulldogs fans. I think I want to send out a warning to all my Bulldogs Twitter friends. Let's not go into this season expecting massive things. Let's still be patient. But I think the things that the moves that they've made for this year is really promising. I remember when Trent Barrett signed on, I must admit, I was a little bit apprehensive. I thought, oh, is he
Hmm.
the right move? I don't know about this. But every single move that he has made has been spot on. I think what really, Nick Cotcher was a great signing. Don't get me wrong, Jack Etherington, Corey Waddell, Kyle Flanagan, great signing. But the thing that just really kind of tipped it over the edge for me was Corey Allen, because it was such a shock.
Yeah.
All those other players were kind of linked to the club, and then they were finally confirmed. And, but Corey Allen was a total shock. And that's when I went, oh, okay, all right, we mean business. Like, this is, we've just snagged a guy that was filled in for Latrell Mitchell last year and did a bloody good job,
Did well,
and made
yeah.
his State of Origin debut and showed a lot of potential. And now he's coming to like my club. Like, yeah, like I think that made me stand up and listen and go, okay, like we're on track here.
Yeah, he's that sort of solid first grader, and he's better than solid. I mean, as you said, like
Yeah,
last year, at the end of last year, especially for the Rabbitohs, he was fantastic.
yeah.
And then like when the Bulldogs got him, it's like, wow, they're not just signing big name players or spending money on, one or two really good players. They're trying to bolster their side, and I agree with you. I thought that was a really good sign, and like I agree with you about Trent Barrett too. I haven't rated him as a coach. I'd like to see him actually do something. But every single move he's made, it's been a bloody good one.
Yeah, even beyond. So I was sad to see so many people part of the coaching staff be moved on. Like
Yeah.
I've grown up and followed these people. Like Tony Grimaldi's been a part of that coaching staff even when I was cheerleading there. So it was sad for me to see so many of them go, and you have to, as a fan, let go of that period. But the people that he's brought in, like Don Ferner and whatnot, they're the big dogs. They're the real
Mm.
deal. And then Steve Hansen, the fact that essentially Andrew Hill said to him, let's get you a mentor, like you come to me with who you want. And Trent Barrett was like, Steve Hansen, here's his number, like let's make it happen. I mean, and then they made it happen. I just think like Trent has come into this role different, like mature, his head screwed on, and he's made really thought out movements.
Yeah, and I guess like because his time at Manly was a failure. It was a really bad failure. And, you kind of hope that he learns from that. I think that Ricky Stewart, he started off at the Roosters and he won the premiership and it was like, great, everything worked. But I think that you can see, like, whether it's the man management side of him, like he's a lot more chilled than he used to be at the start of his career. And it's cool when you see a coach change and progress and they learn things along the way, and we're going to see, that's why they play the games. As I say, you find out about these things, and Trent's got he's done well so far without coaching a game yet, so we'll see how they go. But yeah, I hope Bulldogs fans give him a bit of time, because I thought that Dean Pay was under a lot more pressure than I think he should have been.
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought that shouldn't have ended the way it ended, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. I remember, I can't remember if I wrote an article about it, maybe. I've done so many Bulldogs articles as a frustrated fan, about Dean Pay leaving, because like you said, he got served a shit sandwich when he came to the club. He inherited all the salary cap dramas. He had the board that were just not getting along. He had all of that, and he had the players that were, like, no disrespect to them, but they were never going. Then they just couldn't compete with other teams, and he did his best. And absolutely, were there some things that when he left and Steve Georgalis took over and maybe moved a few people around, you maybe went, oh, okay, all right, Dean Pay should have done that. But I would have really liked to have seen him. See what he could have done without the shackles of the salary cap, or even I noticed that the Bulldogs' defence was quite good under him. I can't remember what their percentage was, but it was actually up there with one of the better teams. And so that said to me, all right, well, we know he's not an attacking coach, he's a defensive coach. So I would have even maybe kept him on at the club as a defensive coach. But again, I don't, it might have been a bit of a hit to the ego if they said, we're not going to keep you as a head coach, but do you want to stay on as a defensive coach?
Yeah. I would imagine Dean Pay would have said no, thank you in a Dean Pay way.
No thanks. Yeah, our girl can dream.
Exactly. But what have you thought of the off season? It's been a bit weird because it's been, for the most part, really quiet. We've had a few things that have popped up here and there. The Israel Folau thing came and went really quickly. I feel like it's going to be an interesting season, because every sports season we've seen so far, their second season of COVID has been really disrupted by COVID. Do you reckon we're going to see something like that in the NRL?
I hope not. I don't know. I feel like in terms of COVID, I think, I don't know, like I guess things are looking positive, and I am keeping my fingers and toes crossed that it will stay that way, because I can tell you, even when the season was suspended, working as a journalist, every single day there was a new breaking news story, whether it be player X breaking the biosecurity measures, Wayne Bennett going out to lunch at an Italian restaurant, player pay cuts, what that's going to look like. Are they going to be in a bubble? Are they going to all move to ANZ Stadium? Are they going to go to an island? Like the new draw, like every day there was breaking news, and it was the most exhausting, unexpected, wild time. So I'm hoping for a little bit of regular programming this year. I'm hopeful, but your guess is as good as mine. I don't know.
I agree with that. I would just love there's two things I'd love. I hope that the season goes through like just normally, just a regular season. There's no games missed or anything like that. And I'm hoping I can call some games this year. I missed it so badly. Oh,
yes, absolutely. Well, my boyfriend plays Canterbury Cup, and his season last year was canned after one game, and he'd spent, a whole preseason preparing, He was excited, like he had really good trial games, and
Yeah.
it was going to be. And he's still got the NRL dream, but he's getting a bit older, so time is of the essence for him.
Yeah, yeah, and like it's a missed year.
Yeah, exactly. And so he's like he's now at a new team and doing a preseason and training hard, and this is a real, like, this is make it or break it. This is it this year, because he's lost a year and he's getting older. So, and he spent a whole year frustrated that he couldn't just go out and play footy, because of course they had to can their season, because majority of the Canterbury Cup players come from the top 30. And they're in the bubble, so it was just going to be too hard with players like my boyfriend, who's not in the top 30 and he has to work every day. So he'd essentially be out in the public and then training with players that are meant to be in the bubble.
Yeah.
So I understand why they had to can it last year, but I just really hope for players like him, the battlers that missed out on the season last year, that things go well and smoothly.
And it's a really good level of competition. Like, I was one of those people that didn't really pay too much attention to Canterbury Cup and all that. And then when I started calling games, and you start seeing the players and you see them come through to first grade, and then you see them drop back from first grade. And I mean, like when I was calling it, I called Aiden Caesar in the game. He ended up playing in the grand final as a halfback. So it's a cool level of the game that I think a lot of people miss out on. Yeah. And I just hope that all runs smoothly.
Yeah, I think with Canterbury Cup as well, it's a really, telling competition of a player's character too. Like you said, if you see a player dropped back to reserve grade, I think it's a really good insight into what type of person they are, what type of player, how badly they want to be back, just by their attitude and how they turn up for a reserve grade game where there's no media, there's no fans cheering them on, it's just family and friends. And you're back with guys that work as a plumber as their day job, and are training 3 nights a week and whatnot, and are not elite professionals. I always find that really telling. And then it's also so rewarding when you do watch a guy come through and work their asses off, and then they finally get that opportunity in first grade, and you're like, yes, you deserve that.
100%. I saw there was a game and it's 2019 now, but there was a Panthers versus Warriors game, and Josh Mansour had been dropped from the Panthers. He was the best player in the field in that Canterbury Cup game. And then there was a Warriors player that had been dropped, who I won't say his name, but he was the most bludger player on that field. And it was, as you said, it just revealed the mentality that they'd gone out there with. But then it was also things like seeing Dane Laurie. And I was like, man, this kid's going to go somewhere. Unfortunately, he's gone to the Tigers now, but he's going to be really, really good for the Tigers. And it's a part of the game it was opened up to me. I was like, wow, I love this stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, like it's played at, a lot of them are played at more suburban grounds, and you're right in the action, and you get to see it all, and you get right up and personal and close to those players, like a Josh Mansour that's dropped back. And it's a bit more personal watching them at those suburban grounds, where you can hear every hit because there's no crowd there, and you can hear them yelling at each other. It's a cool atmosphere.
It really is, and it's the first time I've been to Belmore, well, in Canterbury Cup, and I remember going there, and I was like, "This is the car park." I couldn't believe it. It was so
it's got like 10 spots.
Yeah, it's like, what the hell? Oh man, it's so weird. Some of the suburban grounds, how they're so quaint.
They are. They're just in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, it's very strange. Look, thank you for coming on. You've been an absolutely amazing guest. You've answered so many amazing questions about what it's like to be a cheerleader, and this is a podcast. When me and Andrew sat down about 2 years ago, just about now, to do podcasts, I said I'd love to talk to a cheerleader and get that episode out, and now I've done it. So
and what better timing?
It's fantastic. So thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure. It's always good to have a chat.
So where can people find you? Mainly online. Let's not give you a location.
my address.
Yeah.
You can find me here. No. Well, on Twitter, Instagram, they're mainly the only apps that I use. But my name's pretty simple. It's just Darcie McDonald, Darcie, not like Darcy Lussick.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think my profiles are on public, so you don't have to do any of the creepy adding.
Yeah. Well, it's awesome to talk to you. Thank you so much for joining me.
No, thank you.
So thank you also to our sponsor, manscaped.com. Go to manscaped.com, put in the code NRL at checkout, and you get 20% off, free shipping. Go and get yourself the Lawnmower 3.0. It's fantastic. You will not be upset when you get it. It's fantastic, trust me. Thank you to Darcie. Thank you to everyone that's listened. And we'll be back with another episode probably in the next 20 minutes, the way we put them out.